Welcome back, everybody. You're just in time for What's Hot. This is where we talk about the stories that have everybody talking.
We're joined today by Susie Falk for the Falk Group Public Relations. Jeff Wagner back with us also. A Middleton elementary school teacher fired for looking at porn at work. Andrew Harris was fired in 2010 and 6 other employees were suspended. Harris, though, could be back at work soon as a result of the state Supreme Court's decision. Should he be getting his job back? And somebody explain this decision here for us.
Sure. I mean, here's essentially what happened. There was no question he was looking at pornography, and he was disciplined. What they argued, though, is that what was done to him was more severe than what was done to a whole bunch of other employees who were doing similar things. And so they said, you got to be fair. You can't fire one guy if you're just going to be suspending other people. Thing went to arbitration. An arbitrator ruled in favor of the teacher. The school district tried to appeal it, and the state Supreme Court said, we're not going to take it. So that's why the guy might get his job back. He deserves to be disciplined, but the problem that schools need to learn is if you're going to discipline people, you've got to be fair across the board. That's where the problem was, I think.
Well, thanks for explaining that to me, Jeff, because of the articles I read, I actually didn't get that deep into it. But what I did see in the two articles that I read was that this is going to cost that district something like close to $1 million in back wages and lawyer fees and appeal fees or what have you. And that's just outrageous. Those poor taxpayers.
And I say, I mean, here, so we've had this happen before. I mean, there was a very high-profile case in Cedarburg where it was the same sort of thing, and I think ultimately in that case the firing was upheld. Obviously, the school, the population, I mean, taxpayers in the district are saying, what are these teachers doing, going on school internet things and looking at porn? And that's why I mean, the lesson to come from this is you've got to have real strict policies and you've got to enforce it uniformly. You can't pick and choose.
Well, I bet that they're trending that way now after this very costly lesson and the fact that this guy could get his job back.
Right. And what would happen to anybody at any private employee that got caught doing this?
Well, I think in this, obviously there's different, in this case you had union protections that kicked in and you had this whole disciplinary procedure. The problem the school district had is once they lost in front of the arbitrator, it's very tough to overturn arbitrator decisions, and at some point in time, even if you think you're right, sometimes you might want to just kind of cut your losses and move on.
There should just be a policy, no porn. Even, these teachers take their laptops home, and truthfully, I don't think that those machines should be used at all for personal reasons. And I know some people, that's their main home computer too, but I think that should be a lesson for all educators out there, is you just don't mess around with stuff like that, and you certainly don't send inappropriate jokes or anything else to that
The school district was arguing there's different types of porn, and some is worse than others.
I believe the Supreme Court has said something like that too, hasn't they?
I think it's all the same if you're a teacher and you're at work.
Right.
You know it when you see it. All right, coming up next, we reveal the viewers' choice.
Now more of what's hot in our viewers' choice topic of the day.
Again, we have Susie Falk here in studio with us, and Jeff Wagner a safe distance away in the newsroom. Today's viewer choice topic, bullying, a big problem in schools. Researchers have found that coach bullying happens more often than you might think. Should something be done to help prevent coach bullying? Some people will refer to coach bullying simply as coaching.
And coaches should, they should yell and they should mentor and they should at times, light the fire under us and perhaps shout loudly in ears. I think that where you need to draw the line is when, the yelling turns into harassment, terrorism, and, emotional damage or destruction. And I think the only way to do that is to kind of monitor your kids and talk to other parents of kids on the team. And if there's a trending problem, then you do something about it. But I don't think that things should be regulated, or I don't think that there should be any kind of necessarily written rules for how a coach should be. In a way, it's like pornography. You know it when you see it. And how do you define bullying?
I'm glad I brought that line up today.
Do you think that that's where things are with coaching, or have we gotten softer as a society? Because I see a lot of areas, where
when did we become such delicate
don't
flowers?
Eat dirt, it'll kill you, and we all ate dirt growing up.
I think the answer is actually, I think the answer is yes to both. I think we have gotten softer, but I also think we're a little bit more sensitive to things. And see, I'm with you on on this one, Susie. I don't think you can have a one-size-fits-all piece of regulation because, I mean, everybody who's played in sports, you have coaches who yell and they scream and sometimes they curse and those type of things.
And some kids do better with that,
right.
others don't.
But there is a line that you don't cross. I mean, you had the Rutgers basketball coach, a year ago who was like throwing basketballs, hitting kids. I understand there's all sorts of people who say, I remember I was playing football and the coach would, grab the helmet and the face mask. The standards have changed, and I think you've got the verbal abuse and then you've got the physical abuse, and that's something you got to be real careful about.
And I do think social media plays into this because I think these kids will kind of gang up on someone and maybe start tweeting and texting, and how the group think can kind of blow
or
a
parents
situation.
who don't like when their kid their kid isn't playing enough, so they don't like the coach, and so you have to keep it in perspective. And it's tough to be a coach, but
Coaches have always been bullies, Jeff. Let's just face it. I think we're just reporting.
They're called
more.
They're coaches.
And most of them are fantastic.
All right, let's
and
go
since
to our
I have no
lightning
experience
round.
with pornography, I don't know that when I see it. But bullying,
lightning
maybe.
round. Let's see if we can bring pornography into this
Yeah.
one. Many parents spending thousands of dollars on their kids' sports. Some parents even cancel vacations because of all that money they're spending. Youth sports have become a $7 billion industry in travel alone.
Yeah,
Is it too expensive? I mean, you got these teams that travel everywhere. They spend weekends going to other states.
Sure. Here's what happened. School districts had to cut out those club sports, or many of them. And unfortunately, if you want to play competitive high school sports, you have to belong to a club team. I learned this through my own experiences. Club teams cost money, and club teams can be very competitive and very serious. And then the really good club teams start traveling, and thus the expense of the travel and the hotel lodging. Yeah, I do think it's a huge industry, and I just wish, we don't have it, but there was more money in our district so that kids maybe didn't have to spend money on club sports. They could just do it at the school. But
see, and part of the thing too is, especially at the higher levels, the parents think, okay, this is going to be the kid's ticket to college scholarship or the pros or whatever. We need to get them the best competition, so you invest in that, and it does have the effect of, I think, limiting some kids' access to these type of things. I don't know what the answer though is. It's just the way of the world nowadays.
It is the way of the world, and good for those capitalists who are, monopolizing on it or turning it into their profits. But poor families, on the other hand, and yet these kids are getting some good exposure, I suppose. It's a complicated situation.
A lot of dads out there willing to cancel their Playboy subscriptions to send their kids to youth hockey.
You just took it down that route again.
Had to get it in all three topics
Came
today.
full circle.
The What's Hot discussion continues online. Find that page at tmj4.com. Jeff's blushing a little /hot. We'll be right back.